Welcome back to A Bite from the Money Sandwich, where we provide practical and easy to understand tips and ideas on how to manage your money better, so as to let you retire with comfort and on your own terms. Mental health is so important to understand and to recognize when yourself or someone around you is being affected, but sometimes you don't know what to do next. Today, I speak to Kim Huckerby, founder of the Wellbeing Affect. Kim is also a keynote speaker and runs accredited mental health first aid and wellbeing programs around Australia. Kim always knew she wanted to help others and has spent her whole career focusing on mental health and wellbeing. And today, she explains to me what mental health encompasses and the importance to understand how to recognize the signs and help those around you. She also explains her top mental health tips, which we can all apply in our lives. Well, hi, Kim. How are you going?
I am well, thank you. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, no, our pleasure. And if you've seen the YouTube, you'll see the lovely backdrop you've got there. If you're hearing this, Kim has a lovely backdrop behind her. And yeah, very, very nice and serene, if I could say that.
Thank you. Thank you. A lot of time, care, thought went into my backdrop. I thought, actually, the plant that you can see me in the background, I was getting my background all ready and I was about to buy a fake plastic plant. And I thought, you know what? I actually need a bit of energy in this room. And so if anyone knows me, I kill every plant. I literally don't have one in my whole house or in my workplace. And so that one over there, I have kept alive for nearly 1 year. So
well done.
Anyway, I don't know what that says, but it's exciting.
Definitely mine is a plastic plant, so I have to give you that because similar, but I do like plants. And yeah, we have the money tree over there in the other corner, but that's hanging on. But yeah, I do know exactly the same. Keeping a plant alive is a difficult thing. So this is all about mental health and just having chats with you in the past. We've known each other for a while now, and it really is just, it's a very necessary subject, but it's a very interesting subject. And I just sort of interested in how you actually went into this area of this profession.
Yeah, look, I mean, I can give you the long answer or the short answer. I'll go for the short one. But look, I've been in this industry for a very long time. I think I was one of those lucky few that ever since school, I always knew that this was an area that I wanted to get into. I mean, when I was very young and I moved here from South Africa, I remember driving through the eastern suburbs, seeing a van helping people experiencing homelessness and those vulnerable in our community. And I remember saying to my mum, and she tells the story to this very day about how I just pointed and I said, you know, what's that? And they told me, and I said, well, I'm going to do that one day. And it's something that, yeah, I guess has been a part of my being for forever. I can't remember a time that I thought I'd be something else. Once upon a time, I did think I'd be a dolphin trainer. So I'll put that one out there. Who doesn't love dolphins, you know, young teenage girls. But no, but I mean, it is something that's just been part of, you know, my every fiber of my being. And started off doing social work many years ago, worked in the not-for-profit sector for about 18 years and always knew that this mental health trajectory was where I wanted to be. So yeah, it's something I've never really wavered from. I love what I do every day. I'm very blessed. I know that not everybody gets to wake up every day and, you know, do what they love and serves their purpose in this world. So yeah.
And it's great when, you know, when someone, and you hear these stories of people at a very young age, basically they work out their sense of purpose, their life's purpose really early, and you absolutely have done that. Mine was actually, funny enough, was a bit, I always knew I'd want to be in the money or industry, finance industry, and helping people with money. Basically, when I realized I saw other people with money, and I also worked out money was emotional because I felt envy that day. But it was always that sense of purpose. I can still remember those early feelings and just, yeah, it's amazing how that sense of purpose can be formed at a very young age. Well, mental health, the umbrella of mental health is quite wide. And for thinking of things like stress, anxiety, depression, all that. And I even think like financial wellness still falls under the mental health umbrella. How do you, when you talk about, how do you define that area?
Yeah, look, it's a really great question. And thank you so much for asking it, because I think that often people use the term mental health as, I mean, it is this umbrella term, but people often use it interchangeably with mental illness. And I was reading a newspaper article not so long ago when the journalist in the newspaper article, they were writing about a mental illness, which is a diagnosed illness. And they use the term mental health in this article, and I'm reading it and I wanted to pull my hair out because I thought when people are reading things like this, no wonder everyone is so confused, because mental health incorporates so much more than that. Of course, mental illness sits in there for sure. The way I best describe it is on what we call a mental health continuum. And our mental health ranges from having a positive mental health right through to mental illness and everything in between. So it's really important that we're talking about mental health, and even through today and for our listeners, that we really do think about it in that way, because when we look at it on that, when we look at it on that continuum, then we can understand where every single person sits, rather than just lumping us all in that one mental illness space. Because people struggle with mental health problems. There was some research that just recently came out which said that everybody will be impacted in some way by mental health struggles. So not necessarily mental illness. We know 1 in 5 Australians have a diagnosed mental illness, but so many more people are struggling with their mental health and their well-being. As you say, finance sits in there as well as many other things. But it's not this one finite place that people often refer to it as.
And I liked when you said about the other end of the scale, the positive mental health, because I've had this discussion before about, stress, and, stress, it can be a really bad mental health issue, but you can't be without stress. Some stress is a really good thing, is a really positive thing. If, the nervousness of, about to go on a first date, all those sort of things, there's a positiveness. So it really is hard. You can't think of mental health as a negative.
Absolutely. I mean, anxiety, when I'm sitting or standing in front of a room of 500 people and I say, put your hand up if you've ever felt anxious before, every single person in that room is going to put their hand up. It's 100% of us. It's a normal human emotion, and we all feel that level of anxiety or stress. Yes, it can tip over into a problematic space, but you're right. It helps with our performance. It helps with our decision making, a range of different positive qualities that having stress and anxiety has in our lives. It all has a place, but we do need to be looking out for, I guess, when that does kind of move into a space where we think, okay, this is problematic. What does this look like? How's this impacting my life? And do I need some extra support for this?
And one of the really big things that I've seen really generation, like a 20th century thinking, I talk about 20th century thinking, 21st century, we're old way thinking, new way thinking. Old way thinking was you dealt with it on your own, especially men. Yeah. We never talk about that. You could be with your friends for 4 hours and, their partner may have passed away and you would just never mention it. So I'm being flippant there. But one of the things I do see this present generations or the younger generations, they're so willing to, one, talk about their feelings and actually reach out for help. And that's got to be a positive thing.
Absolutely. We are definitely seeing an increase in help seeking. And I mean, as you know, I've got 2 teenage boys, and honestly, sometimes they come home from school, they're both in high school, even actually back in primary school, now that I think about it, and they come home and they talk to me about things that I learned in uni. Like I learned at university or in my work as a social worker. They're learning that stuff now. They're 12 and 15 or nearly 15. So yeah, we are seeing huge generational change. And I do think that we will start to see a shift in people wanting to talk about it, people reaching out for help. It will take time, but we are certainly getting there. And, in the 20 years that I've been in this industry, there's absolutely been a reduction in stigma. It's still very much there, and for a variety of different reasons and for a variety of different mental health issues. But we're getting somewhere, I think.
Yeah. And how do you find, and only because I was just talking about this someone yesterday in Canberra, and it was about taking responsibility, or you're just using it as an excuse. That must be a hard thing from a professional, from your point of view, to sort of say sometimes you've just got to take that on board and move on with your life. Or no, you need help. I need to help you here.
Yeah, look, one of the things that I do is, I do a lot of mental health training, and I often just say that if something is not sitting right, then we need to take all talks of mental health seriously. If someone is struggling, it's so important that, if we are feeling a bit sick, and really not feeling well, and you think, all right, maybe it's worth a trip to the doctor, to the GP to see what's going on, we wouldn't think twice about it.
Right.
Whereas for when it comes to mental health, again, if we think about that mental health continuum, when we're not feeling great, we don't want to wait until that end, that high risk situation. We want to jump in as early as possible. And I always say, if only we could see a mental health professional in the same way that we see a GP and going to, check in for a doctor. So, yeah, I think, it's an interesting kind of thought, and I absolutely hear what you're saying, and it is, yeah, it's a hard one.
And I think there's the ultimate goal, that we do see someone like as a mental health professional is the same as seeing a GP. And why shouldn't we? If that's, it's all about wanting to have positive mental health, positive physical health. So we should see the same. So while I've known you, I've always seen you speaking at corporates and groups and all that. So when did you make this transition of, I see one-on-ones, but really I can actually spread the word or spread how this all works to the many. So that's been a big part of what the last 10, 20 years you've been.
Absolutely. Look, I'm trying to think, probably about 9 years ago now, I was doing a lot of work for TAFE, New South Wales, and they asked me if I wanted to become a mental health first aid instructor. And I'm ashamed to say it now because it's been around for a very long time, but I said, yeah, sure. Okay, but what's that? So they sent me along to this training course so I could become a accredited instructor and trainer. And as I did that course, I just knew then that this was something that I wanted to do for the rest of my life. Of course, that has changed, emerged, evolved, morphed into lots of different things as a speaker and trainer in many different other areas. So I do workshops and a range of different things. But I guess for me, it was when as you say, when I kind of saw the impact, the greater impact that I could have by upskilling people, by sitting there and just seeing that penny drop. And excuse the pun, for what you do in your work, but, just seeing that kind of that recognition of, and it's not even these big grand ideas or thoughts or strategies that I'm giving to anyone. It's just when something really resonates with another human being, that I take so much, I think, joy and I guess pride in what I do, because I know that it is impacting and affecting people's lives. So for me, it's just, I have this, call me crazy, but I have this idea that, we have a world where everybody is upskilled, where everybody has not even the skill and the knowledge, but for me, it's more the confidence to step forward and support someone who's struggling. Because for me, that is number one. I've spoken to so many people over the years who have said to me, yes, I didn't step forward and see how someone was going, or I didn't ask them the question because I was so scared of what the answer would be. If they told me something that they were really struggling, I wouldn't know what to do and I wouldn't know what to say. So for me, doing what I do, I really want people to feel confident to take that step forward, and to, maybe they won't know what to do or say in that moment if someone tells them that they're struggling, but at least they've taken that step forward, and together, with the right support and help, they can find that person, the help and the support that they need. So so that's kind of where my path started to change a little bit.
And you were the first one I'd ever heard that term. I've heard it a couple of times since, but mental health first aid and running these courses. And there's probably two parts to this question. Exactly what is, if there's an employer or someone like that who wants to actually, what is a mental health first aid course, and how do you organize that for their staff? But then my natural reaction was, I presume you teach HR teams, but the way you were just speaking, it's really for any employee to recognize another employee is struggling, and to be able to, what do I do to go up and say? That doesn't necessarily mean to be a HR team.
Absolutely.
So what is mental health first aid, the course, and then it obviously, is it to everyone, not just to HR teams?
Yes. Okay. So to answer your first question, what is it? Mental health first aid, it is an accredited course. So it's run by Mental Health First Aid Australia. And these are courses to equip people to support others in their lives through recognizing the mental health issues that they're struggling with, and to have the skills, the strategies, the knowledge to step forward and support them, using a mental health first aid action plan, which I teach people in the course. And it's really, as I said, it's about empowering those people to step forward and support someone who's struggling. There's a lot of different types. So I do my My main area of focus is the corporate world, so a lot of workplaces, but I do a lot of work in schools as well. So for teachers, parents who are wanting to learn how to support their young people, and each mental health first aid course has a different and a specific focus. So there's youth mental health first aid, that's for an adult who's supporting or living with a young person. And of course, that's going to be really different, right, to something I'm running in a corporate workplace where we're learning how to support our own colleagues or people that we're managing. So there's a team course, and then that's directly for young people, because we know that young people go to each other when they're looking for support and help and they want to talk, they go to their friends. So we want to upskill our youth. And as we were talking about earlier, it's about upskilling and seeing a change and shift in culture. So it's a great course. You become an accredited mental health first aider, so very similar to your physical first aid, and that lasts for a few years. Then you can do a refresher after that, and then you get another few-year accreditation. But as I said, it's really just about that upskill and about equipping people to have that confidence to step forward and know how to support people. It's time intensive. It can be quite long, but I have never had, often people will say upfront, they'll say to me, oh my gosh, that's a lot of hours. You can do it in person, or there's a new blended version, which has been on offer for a couple of years now, and that's great. It's all online and people can do a lot of it in their own time. Okay. But I've had people often say to me at the beginning, there's a lot of hours in there, but at the end they've just said to me, wow, that was also worth it. So I've never had anyone complain and say it was too long. I've often had people say to me, you know what, actually that was too short, I'd love it to be a little bit longer. But we could talk about this stuff for weeks, but the main thing really is that they're not psychologists, they're not counsellors. The mental health first aid is not about training up people to be that. People go to university and study for many years to be a healthcare professional, but this is about being a first aider. So it's recognizing those signs, those symptoms early on, stepping forward and supporting someone to get the help that they need. And if they're in a crisis situation, to help them until that crisis resolves, or until you're able to again, find them some appropriate support. So,
and that's knowing where to go to for help would be obviously is also a very important part of this.
Yes, it's a really important part. So we definitely delve straight into that. There's a lot of youth services available, and that I go through, and we don't have heaps of time in the courses, but I've got a lot of resources that I often have people emailing me about afterwards, say, hey, can you refer someone to, can you help me with a referral for this kind of person or in this area or whatever it is. So referral pathways are huge.
And just what's this normal class size if you're running a course for mental health first aid?
So look, there's a cap on the online session. So the online session, the blended online, is a cap of 12. So that's maximum. That's best practice. And I want to always ensure that I've got a safe space. That has been guided by Mental Health First Aid Australia. So as a licensed instructor, I need to follow that, and I'm very happy to, because you don't want to have a class or a group size that's too big. In person, I often go up to about 20 or 22 in person. That's something that's very manageable. But you want to make sure, for me, number one is safety and my participants' safety, their well-being, and I want to make sure that they're okay. So those are the class sizes that work really well, and give everyone that space and time to have a voice and ask questions and do some prac stuff. And, if they're too big, they're hard to manage and people don't feel safe talking.
And when I run courses, whether it's on superannuation or savings, things change. So, usually getting a refresher course once a year, once every couple of years is really important, because just the rules change. Yep. I presume similar for yourself?
Definitely.
Courses?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of my clients that I work with, they will do that refresher after 3 years to make sure that their staff get that additional 3-year accreditation. Although sometimes I do a lot of 1-hour workshops or just check-ins while facilitator, because even 3 years can seem like a bit of a long time. So I've got a few clients where every year I go in and just do a quick hour refresher with their team. So it really does depend on who I'm working with. But you're right. Things do change, and you want to make sure that they've got up-to-date information, it's current, and things are changing all the time.
And have you noticed, when you were saying before about, the stigma is definitely lessening, COVID must have had a big part of that. People, employers and all that, seeing their staff firsthand, struggling from home, you got to be locked up in a bedroom type of thing. I had my own staff who were, they were young ladies, sharing in a unit 3 or 4 people, and so basically they were doing all their work from their one little bedroom, all for 8 hours a day, and during COVID, and they were struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. COVID. I mean, we probably how much time do we have? It's been significant. I mean, there's been a few positive, if I call them positive changes that we've seen as a result of COVID, and this is one of them. I think people are starting to take mental health very seriously. Especially with my workload, it has increased. And certainly not happy to say that, but it's something. But I am happy because it means that people are starting to talk about this and normalize it. And we're wanting to upskill their staff. They're seeing this as a thing that everybody has a role in. So as you were talking about earlier about, is this just HR who are being trained? Absolutely not. It's everybody because, I mean, someone said to me actually not so long ago who just done my course, at the end of the session, we kind of do a bit of a wrap up, and they said, Kim, but everybody should do this course. And I said, you're speaking my language. Like this is, of course I think that too. It's what gets me out of bed every day to do what I'm doing. But, it just because you have a title, whether it's HR, even a counselor, a school counselor, teacher, whatever it is, that doesn't mean that someone's going to feel comfortable talking to you and opening up about what they're going through, friends, family. Really, we all need to have that confidence to listen and to really hear what people are saying. And, we might not know 100% of the time what to do, and it's okay. But the fact that someone has opened up to you, we can reach out for help ourselves and get the support for that person.
And I would imagine corporate Australia has probably been the first to look at this, but small business, if you've got 5, 10, 30 staff, a small business, they're usually always the last to come along, but there'd be so many small businesses that would get such a benefit out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no matter how small or big a business is, absolutely. Because I think it's something that now people can't ignore. I've had employees tell me that, or employers, I should say, sitting in an interview, employing staff, and the new people coming on who they're interviewing saying to them, so tell me, what is your wellbeing strategy? How do you manage? Like, this is the kind of thing that's coming through. They're being interviewed and asked, all right, so what does this look like in your workplace? How's this managed? What do you guys do? What's your corporate social responsibility like? Like, it's an area now that is embedded in these younger generations coming through and having an expectation of what a workplace looks like, which might be very different to what some workplaces are. So no matter how small or how big that business is. So it's very interesting.
Having, whether you implement it or not, just being able to, knowing where to go to where to turn. So is there, as you said, there's mental health first aid, recognized courses, and people like yourself who are trained in this, but is there somewhere, how do someone find someone like yourself, for example?
Look, so, I mean, for me, I'm a trainer. Mental Health First Aid Australia has a great website where people can jump on and find a licensed instructor in their state. So if they're looking for a state-based course, otherwise I do work with lots of different facilitators and instructors across Australia. So if you're looking for an in-person course, I'm very happy to help point that person in the right direction for an instructor. Otherwise, online sessions, of course, anyone can do them anywhere. So, more than happy for anyone to reach out to me. But Mental Health First Aid Australia. Otherwise, please, definitely get in touch with me. I'm happy to help.
And we'll put all your details down there as well, if anyone wants to know. So from your experience, there must be reoccurring things that you see in workplaces or people. So if you were to sort of say, your top 3 mental health tips, there's sort of some things that, sort of say, yep, these are the no-brainers. You need to address these straight away, or look out for these sort of things. What would they be, for example?
All right. My number 1, always, every time, is around self-care. So practicing self-care, I think that for me is number 1, probably because it's something that deeply resonates with me, being someone, I was in the not-for-profit sector for so many years and definitely left myself at the end of everything, put everything else before me, and didn't see the importance of self-care. I always thought it was a luxury and something that other people got to do, but that I didn't, because my work was so important and my family was so important, and me, I just just had to kind of get on with it until I didn't. And so for me, I always say to people, yes, we are there to learn how we can best support other people, how to recognize when there's changes, but actually we need to take care of ourselves first. And I often use that oxygen mask analogy when you're sitting on a plane. I'll never forget when I was on a plane with my youngest, my oldest, who's now 15, but so nearly 15 years ago. And I thought, okay, I better pay close attention now to the instructions on the plane. And they said, right, so, you know, if anything happens, you put the oxygen mask on yourself before helping infants or anyone else around you. And I thought, well, of course I'm going to help my child first. Like, he's my world. I'd help him first before me any day, until I realized that if something happened in the plane and I lost consciousness while I was trying to help him, then I wouldn't be able to help anybody. Him included. So I'd need to put my own oxygen mask on to then be able to help him and others. And that's why I use that analogy so strongly in life.
Yeah, I like that.
Because if I don't take care of myself, and I know when that is wavering, I know that when I am lacking in self-care and when it's really needed, quite often it's when I'm in service to a lot of different people and to work. For some reason, it just starts to dissipate, but it's so critical. And I guess it's a very long one tip, so I'll make the other two very short, I promise. But a lot of people think with self-care that it needs to be these big grand gestures. You know, I need to go for a 10-kilometer walk, a massage, or I need to go for, I don't even know, you know, one participant once many years ago, he went to a float tank. I was like, you don't need to do all that stuff. I mean, great, good on you. Yeah. You don't have to, but even just taking a step outside and taking 3 deep breaths and you know, having an early night and getting some good sleep. Like, those are some key strategies that everybody can implement in their lives. We just need to see the importance of them and practice them. So self-care. The other two, just quickly, are about being there for each other. We've already spoken about that today. So it's about, you know, recognizing if someone in your life is struggling, please just take that step forward and see how they're doing. Ask them if they're okay. A lot of the time we'll probably get a, yes, I'm fine, I'm all good. But if something is just niggling at you, be persistent and just check in with them again and just see, you know, if there's any way that you can support them. And then thirdly, just around accessing help. So if they are struggling, I know that reaching out for help can be so incredibly hard. It takes so much courage to do. And certainly there are lots of different barriers that are in the way of people reaching out and seeking help. We might have seen an increase in that, but we do know that there are definitely barriers in place that stop people from doing that. So I guess my big tip is that if you are struggling, you know, let's start seeing a counsellor or a psychologist as we would a doctor, normalize it, reach out, step forward as early as we can to get the help that we need.
Yeah, normalize it. I love that. I think that whole thing about, exactly, you said, you know, how are you feeling? You know, with someone, they're not just quite right, and you ask them how they're feeling. They say fine, and then you say, yep, okay, and walk away. Yeah. No, you can't. You've got to at least can't be it. You know, there's something wrong. You know, just sit down, have a chat with them, have a conversation with them. I'm sure if you just at least get them talking, hopefully something will come out.
Yeah, definitely. And if it doesn't in that one, it might take a week. It could take a few weeks, a month, you know, a few months. But yeah, just regularly checking in with them. Yeah.
Yeah. There was one thing, I know the Financial Advisor Association, we did a whole campaign on just reach out to a mate. If you know, a lot of advisors I know are around the city. So there's lots of us around there, but there's lots of small country towns, and there was one advisor and they may not see another advisor, you know, once every 6 months or something like that. Well, just call, just give them a call, see how they are, just know that you're there. So it really is. And, you know, we financial advisors is a very traditional old white male type occupation, and just trying to get these guys to think about, well, no, look out for your mate. Checking on that was a very hard conversation, I can tell you, but I'm really glad we did it, because it definitely, for a lot of people, it made a big difference. So I could really see it firsthand during COVID, how much mental health, people were struggling with their mental health.
Absolutely. And, you know, it's so interesting. I've had some pretty tough audiences of late where I thought I might be met with, you know, people who are a bit, you know, that stigma's still there. And it's hard to kind of drill through and get through to them. But As I said before, everyone in some way has been affected and touched by mental health issues, whether it's their own lived experience or someone around them, work colleague, friend, family member, whoever it is. And so I think people are ready to talk about it. They might not be visibly receiving it super well in a small training course or in a talk or whatever it is, but it is definitely getting in there, and we just need to keep on having these conversations.
Yeah. And for me, I had a chap who I've known really for a long time, a lovely guy from Manchester. So, up north in England, they don't talk about these sort of things, but we were at a dinner table and we're saying about how mental health, because we're talking about our adult children.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying, yeah, and my children would do this, but I would really struggle to talk to a friend even about my own mental health because it wasn't the way I was raised. And he just turned to me and said, I'd be really basically pee off if you didn't feel that you could come and talk to me. I would just really, I feel I could come to talk to you. I expect you feel like that. If we weren't, we have got a problem. And I'm just thinking, this is this guy from Manchester who would have been, and it was really interesting that he took offense that I wouldn't feel comfortable to talk to him if I had a problem. So I thought, wow, things are definitely changing. I could see that.
Yes. Wow. That's amazing. Love that. Yes.
One thing I love asking my clients is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received, whether from a parent, work colleague, or just you've read? For you, what would be the best piece of advice you've ever received, Kim?
Okay. Can I have two?
Oh, of course you can. You absolutely can have two.
Okay, cool. Because there was something I was going to say earlier and we didn't get a chance. So I'm putting it into this final bit. So the one bit of advice that I always give to people is around help seeking. Because I think often, how many times have you heard from someone where they've said, oh, yeah, I tried that counseling thing once and it's not for me?
Yeah.
Where someone might have had a really negative experience in the past, or again, whatever that barrier is. And I always say to people that trying to find someone to talk to is like trying to find a good pair of shoes or a good pair of jeans. Sometimes you need to try a few before you find one that fits.
Okay.
And I think that bit of advice often empowers people just to go, you know what, I've given this person a go. We've had a few sessions. Something's just not gelling. That connection is so important for any kind of recovery. And so, yeah, if it's just not working for you, please don't think that counseling or therapy or talking to someone isn't for you. It just might mean that person isn't for you. And that's okay. So please just make sure that you reach out and try and find someone else.
Yep.
So that's my first bit. And my second one is just something that my mom and my grandma, and for years, we've just always talked about this. And I just thought, because life is just so tough right now. And, things change every minute, hour, day, week, month, year. And I just think that something that has been ingrained in me since I was a little kid is that when things are good, we need to put our arms around them. We need to wrap around us the things that are good, take stock, pause, reflect, be grateful, because things can change. Maybe they won't, but when things are good, we just need to embrace them. And I do often, everybody has stuff that goes on in their life. I certainly have. And I know that when things are good, I am mindfully, if someone calls me and they go, how are you? And I'm like, what, actually, they're good. I'm owning that today. Don't know how much longer it's going to last for. Don't know if I'm going to get a call from school and something's going to, but I don't know what's going to happen next. But when things are good, we just need to, just to embrace it.
Just appreciate it. Yeah, absolutely. No, I love
wrap
that.
our arms around it. So yeah.
I like that. Yeah, wrap your arm. Yeah, that Kim. Love talking to you. This is really, it's such a needed thing. So I just appreciate, all your words of wisdom and just, it's just great. And just really appreciate you being on the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's been great. And I love speaking to you too. We could be here for hours, but we won't bore everyone.
Another time. We'll continue another time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Enjoyed this episode and want to hear more of A Bite from the Money Sandwich? Make sure you subscribe on your platform of choice so you can automatically receive each episode as soon as it's released. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you'd like to know more about Kim, visit the Wellbeing Affect, one word, .com.au, the wellbeingeffect.com.au, or visit the Mental Health First Aid Australia website, mhfa.com.au. Or feel free to email me on admin@themoneysandwich.com or visit our website, themoneysandwich.com, if you have any questions or would like to learn more. As with every podcast, this information is not advice, as not personalised to your own situation. And past performance is never guaranteed for the future. What we are trying to do here is to provide tips, coaching and education to help improve your money knowledge, which we believe can only be a good thing. See you next time when we take another bite from the money sandwich.